we just got back from Germany yesterday. I was talking in Dachau. I don't know if you ever heard of Dachau. Dachau is the first concentration camp. Anyway, so maybe I spoke too much up there. So, what is it called funny? I'm going to start off actually when I was born. I was born actually in Romania in 1929, and Romania was very poor, still is actually, and I lived in a small village, not in a big town, and we lived mostly off the land and so on. My father was a rabbi. I had 4 sisters and 3 brothers, and big family. Excuse me. That's better. And so life was not easy. It was very, very difficult. We lived in a small house, and we only had two rooms. That's it. And the floor, we didn't have any wood on the floor. We just had mud inside, just muddy floor. So once in a week, we used to just polish this mud and make it look nice. And the roof was from straw. Sometimes the goats used to come up and pick a bit of it. So it wasn't that easy, especially in the 30s. And in 1921 was the Wall Street crash. And the economy went down. And it was very hard. In the 30s was very hard. And that's how I was brought up. So when I was 7, I started going to school, Romanian school, and because I was different than any other child, because my father was a rabbi, and he made me grow side locks, curly locks like this. So when I got to school, everybody made fun of me. You see, so sometimes they beat me up. Told me to go back to Palestine. Who could afford to go to Palestine anyway? If they did go there, they couldn't get there anyway. And so I was finding excuses. Some of the bully boys, there's about 5 of them, and they always started, somebody who's not perfect, started having fun. The reason I'm mentioning this is that because in some of the schools, this is still going on. And somebody's got their thick-rimmed glasses, or someone is there's a ginger hair even. Or somebody limps a bit, or there's a bit slow. They make fun of him, and I said, "Don't make fun of him, because I know how I felt when I was 7." So anyway, this went on quite a few years. The boys grew up, got worse and worse. And that's how life was in Romania. So, the time of 1938, when I was about 9 years old, this part of Romania, which was called Transylvania, has changed. It was annexed, actually, by the Hungarians. So now I've become Hungarian. We lived in the same place, but we're not Romanians anymore. Now we are Hungarians. So once the Hungarians came in, they were very, very anti-Semitic, against the Gypsies, against the Jews. They very much hated them. So they started in the programs, the Hungarians. And the first time they started, they must have listened to the kinder transport, which came over here before the war. And before that, it was, they called it a Schriftelnacht, a night of the crystals, of the glass. And they started beating up people, breaking into synagogues, apparently in Berlin and other cities, broke into about 80 synagogues, smashed it all up. And that was already in 1938. So life was going on now, not as bad, not the same as it was in Romania. And then they started bringing in that everybody has to wear a band with the Star of David on it. And the children had to wear it on their chest. They're like the 2-year-olds, the 1-year-olds. The underwear is written in German, Jude. The Juden is Jew in German, J-U-D-E. And so life was not easy anymore. We were very lucky because we lived on the Campanian mountains, right at the end of the mountains. And so for us, it was only small areas that didn't bother too much. But still saying that there was a few doors away, there was a neighbor of mine, and of course he was Jewish, and he had all this black beard, and the 5 of them brought him out, made him climb up the tree, and when he did climb up the tree, they shot him down. And the police were standing by doing nothing. They couldn't care less. He was only Jewish, that's it. So they couldn't care less about it. And that's how I started already. And then in the end, the same boys, who were the bully boys, joined the Hitlerjugend. And now they're with Hitlerjugend, they could do what they want, and because they encouraged them to kill the Jews or close down, do what you want with the Jews. So it was, so they became Hitlerjugend. And as it going getting worse and worse, and up to 1944, what the Hungarians, what they called, the Germans called it the final solution of the Jews. So, first of all, they came from my father, because he was a rabbi, they came from him first. And I remember standing on the street with my father and my mother, as I was the oldest of the boys. And my mother said to my father, you know what, I don't think I'm going to see you again, somehow. And my father said, you're being religious. He said, no, I said, God will help, and I'll be back. And then she started crying. She didn't believe my father, so because my mother cried, I cried. Ended up, you know, we both cried. And actually, my mother was right. We never saw my father again. And he was only 35 years old. That's the age he was. They told us that they're taking him to the Russian front to dig trenches for the soldiers, you know, the Russian front. But found out at the end that was not true as well. They was always telling us lies, stories and lies all the time. So about 3 weeks later, they came for us. This time they said, you're going to get ready, I'll give you 2 hours, and you have to get ready and pack, but you're not allowed to take more than 1 suitcase. So there was 9 of us. I mean, what do we take? 1 suitcase. And so my mother, what she's done is she says, you know, we can live without clothes, but we can't live without food. So she put food in a suitcase. She done smoked stuff, smoked sausages and smoked meats, and she done bread, dark bread, so it lasts longer, and she got a few tins, and that's all I carried in the suitcase. And then, once we got packed the suitcase, so then we left our home. We weren't allowed to take nothing else, nothing at all. We had some very precious books, which some of them were 500-600 years old. Paintings, you know, from the past. We had to leave everything there. We couldn't take nothing with us. So we just had to take this 1 suitcase, that's it. So then we started putting us in 5s. Everybody had to stand lined up in 5s. So we lined up in 5s, and so then we started marching. They took everybody from the hospitals out, if they're sick. I heard that they even took a person who was under an operation. They took him out as well. They just rolled him out. So everybody had to leave. There was one Baron, I remember, in the village. He's the only one who didn't come because he hanged himself instead of leaving. He didn't want to come. So that was that. So started marching. They told us we're going to a ghetto. I must be honest, I never heard what's a ghetto. I had no idea what a ghetto was. Never heard about it. I was at that time only 14, so I didn't know about ghettos. I didn't hear anything. So then we got into Satomare, which was only about 4 kilometers, 4 or 5 kilometers from our village. And it's called Satomare, that's the Romanian name. The Hungarian name was called Satmar. And this town, and what they done is actually cordoned off part of the town and sold out all the people who lived there who were not Jewish, and gave them the Jewish roughly homes, the houses, and we got we had built a fence around it, and that's why we were inside there. We couldn't get out. There were guards standing everywhere, so it was very difficult to get food even in. It was a struggle because we were there nearly a month in this ghetto. So we were more or less on starvation, more or less, but somehow we managed, we thought. And then they came up to the more lies again. They told us, we're going to Germany and we're going to work in a brick factory and everybody's going to be happy. All the children, everything's going to have a home there, they're going to live nicely. So we've never been to Germany, so I thought, okay, that sounds nice. And then they also told us that some of them might go to a vineyard. And when they mentioned the vineyard, oh, they all stood up and want to go. So then we lined us up again in fives, and we marched from the ghetto, we marched to the trains, which was also about 4 or 5 miles, kilometers, which is about 2.5 miles, something like that. And we marched to these trains. And when we got to these trains, we realized there's no trains, these are freight wagons. You know, there's a little bit of air on top, that's all it was, closed in completely. And nowhere could you get out from there if you wanted to, or jump out. And pushed in, where there should have been 70 people, they put in 110. So we were squashed. And they gave us a bucket of water and also a bucket of, for the toilet, you know, 1 bucket. You can imagine, with 110 people having a bucket, you know. So anyway, then they locked us in from outside with big padlocks and closed the doors. So now those kids were screaming, they want to go home, they don't like it here, they couldn't move, they couldn't sleep, and we were in there for 3 days. So you can imagine, after even half a day, the smell in there and everything else was terrible. There's no air, not much air. And then obviously the water was gone, everything was gone, and we had nothing else to give the children. We got as far as, but we had no choice, nobody would hear us, the train was moving, and we ended up actually in Vienna. And by Vienna, the Austrian police took over. After that, we had the Hungarian police taking us. Because the Hungarian police knew where every Jew lives, so they took us. And so they got to where nobody was left behind. So then this Austrian police managed to open the doors, and they said, anybody who wants water or bread, we can give them, providing you have jewelry. Well, we were very poor at home, we didn't have any jewelry. Mom had she only had a wedding ring, that's all she had. So she gave the wedding ring away and said, that's what I got. And they gave us some water and they gave us some bread. And we were only there about a couple of hours, and then they closed the doors again. I remember somebody asking me, what cargo have you got in these trains? And I heard them saying, Jews, that's what we got. And the train went off. And as the train moved off, one of the guys said, you know what, we're not going to Germany. This train goes east. East? I don't know where east is. I was looking forward to actually going to Germany. We had no chance of traveling in those days. And now here I'm going east. Where is east? I don't know. Anyway, after a day or so, we ended up, or was it 2 days? We ended up in Auschwitz-Birkenau. And Auschwitz was 3 Auschwitzes. One was the Auschwitz #1, which people, worked. Then there was a bigger one, very big. It was, and one time there was in Auschwitz, was over 1 million people there. And Birkenau was the biggest. Birkenau was the one, everybody arrived in Birkenau. And when we arrived, for instance, right, there was the guards up there right away with vicious dogs and told us not to take our suitcase, leave it by the train. Don't take anything, just take yourself. So then I was wondering why at the time, but that's why I wondered. And then the line split. On the left, there was people, you know, who could go through for survival. On the right was right away children and elderly people who went, obviously, they went straight to the gas chambers. But lucky enough, someone asked me, how old are you? And I said, I was 14. He says, from now on you're 17. You know, so, okay, I'm 17. So when I marched off and I come to, there was a big table, a long table, there was standing about 12 or 14 SS, you know, German Nazis. And they were sorting out who to live and who to die. So they asked me how old I am, and I said 17, and he passed me. So the others who survived, on the other side apparently, they just went, most of them, they told them they're having a shower. You know, they were glad to go to have a shower because it's 3 days and on traveling and so on, and especially in place. They were pleased to have a shower. So they didn't make any business about it. Sorry, my voice seems to be getting better now anyway. So didn't have a shower. But what they had is they had shower heads, but there was no water in the building. So all the children under 12 went in the gas chambers right away. Over 12 they were selected. For instance, as I stood there being selected, behind me there was one of the boys from my village, the healthy boy. But the only thing was wrong with him, 1 foot was a quarter of an inch lower than the other foot. And they sent him to the gas chambers, but I didn't know at the time. But I found out where he went to, never seen him again. And so, but I was chosen to live. So from there, I went to, I queued up a long, long queue to get myself a number on my arm. You had to have a number, because on this number, you got food and you got crossed off. So from now on, your name was not Leslie, it was not Lyman, it was 8230, that was your name, 8230. So he gave you a number, and then once I got my number, they told me I can go and have a shower. But leave your clothes here, and would you pack them please nicely, fold them up lovely, so when you come out, you find them intact. So I done that, and I had, because being religious, I had the Bible with me, which my grandfather gave me. It was very precious to me, that Bible, because my grandfather gave me my 13th birthday. So that's why, so I put it between my clothes, hoping they don't see it. And I come out, I leave it. When I got into the showers, there was a very powerful, high pressure, there was a very high pressure water coming out. So he couldn't stay very long. It was about 10 minutes if it wasn't like that much. Then he came out. And when I came out from the shower, I found my clothes were gone. And my shoes were gone. And the Bible, of course, was gone. And instead there was a pair of striped pajamas. And wooden clocks. And that was my new uniform. At the moment it was a uniform. And on the back, he had a big letter, a K, letter K, and letter L. And I thought to myself, well, how did they know my initials? KL, was my initials. Because in Germany, you're not Leslie Kleiman, you're Kleiman Leslie. So your family name is always first. I didn't realize it was Konzentrationslager, you know, that means the concentration camp. A lager is a camp in German. So after this, now I've got my number, and I've lost all my clothes now, so now I have nothing. Even that they took away. So then we went into the barracks, and the bunkers up there, and we had to sleep. 7 people, some of we made, they pushed in to one bed. And you can imagine we couldn't move, if one moved, the whole lot moved. We had to sleep sideways. We couldn't sleep, you know, like on your back. No room. And so I've ever managed, it's a miracle, honestly, I've anybody ever managed. And this barrack was 500 people sleeping. And they gave us actually 1 bucket for the night in case you're going to go to the toilet. It's all very nice, that's it. And that's all there was. So, in the morning, we got up, we had to stand in a, they called it appel, in line, 7s, 5s again, and waiting to go to work. And then they came up with some black coffee and a slice of bread, 1 slice of bread, and 1 little tiny piece of margarine. That was your breakfast. And then we had to wait, you know, quite a while. You know, while we were waiting, they took about a dozen Jews and they hanged them again. Just, you know, any one of them, for no reason, just because. The only reason is that never happened to people who were Jewish. So every day they picked this. We had to wash all this. So, and there was the entertainment, whatever there was. There was actually a band at the gate, going out to work and coming in. There was a band. I don't know why, but that was only in Auschwitz 1, not in Birkenau. And after that, we went to work. Well, the work I was given is on the railway lines, and I had to put strips down. You know, those wooden strips which you see on the railway lines. It was not an easy job. And when you get 400 calories a day, that's all they had. To work 12 hours, not many people, they give them the most 3 months to live. That's it. You know, because they're more or less starved. They had no strength to live. If they didn't have strength to live, they just shot you or sent you to the gas chambers. So you had to manage whatever you got. For lunch, for instance, the only thing I do remember was just a fish soup. And this fish soup was just bones. There was no meat on the fish. So I managed to ask one of the guards. He happened to be Hungarian. And I said, well, I got the soup. What happened to the meat? And he says, well, you Jews don't get the meat. You just get the bones. We eat the meat, and then we give you the bones when we finish with it. So that's what you get. So that was our lunch, just a bit of liquid, fish liquid, water. And then in the evenings, actually, when we came in, we did get a pint of soup. And that was actually vegetable soup. But then all this together didn't make more than 400 calories, if you're lucky. And nobody could live on it. But all I'd done is just to drink lots of water. There was taps up there, which I drank. And if I was hungry, so I drank water. So I managed to sort of be off. So one day I went to work, and next to me, which was a man from Holland, and he actually straightened his back out. That's all he done, straightened his back out. The guy came and shot him. And I said to him, why did you shoot him? Well, he said, you're here to work, you're not here to straighten your back out. I mean, it was only a second. How long does it take? And then that's human beings, but nothing in there. There was Russians in there, they were prisoners, they were treated bad as well. And so that's how life was. I didn't care two hoots. Anyway, about 6 weeks later, funny enough, maybe less, I was very sick myself. I didn't feel good at all. So what I thought I'd do is, I'm going to the toilet. There was a toilet there. and go there and stay there in the toilet. So when I went to the toilet, I stayed there. When I came out, the guard noticed me. I didn't think he would notice me. And he noticed me, and he pulled me over. He said, come on. And when I got there, when I got to him, he says to me, you've been too long in the toilet. I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, drop your pants. And I got 30 lashes. I was not annoyed with him because I thought he could have shot me. Nobody cared anyway. Instead of that, he gave me 30 lashes, but that took me 3 months to heal. If you haven't got dinner, got no food, you have nothing. How are you gonna heal things? Anyway, so that was my only punishment, I remember. Because I was trying to keep, you know. And then I came into the camps one day, you know, it happened to be the weekend, which I had my sort of Sundays we had off one day, and so 6 days we worked. And there was people coming in every day, trains arrived, you know. And the time, you know, that place had 1 million people at camp. 1 million people, unbelievable. Arrived from all over Europe, trains arrived. And there was 28,000 women and children and old people were murdered. 20 every day. So, but people didn't know, they just left everything. So then there was a train arrived, you know, and there was a lot of young girls there with their babies coming up. And I was not far away from them. And I told them, you know what, if I was you, I would give those children to your grandmother, you know, because you have a very good chance. Someone believed me, someone didn't. But somebody helped me, I tried to help them. And because I know the older people go to the gas chambers, you know, there's no chance of them living. Or if you were out of shape, or if you were an invalid or whatever, you had no chance like that. In fact, even if you're German, if you went to gas chambers, you were not 100%, we're not normal. So never mind about Jews. And and then what they done is, you know, the old people, for instance, most of them had crowns, you know, and gold in their mouths. So after they gassed them, they got the Jewish people, dentists, to take these teeth out, these gold teeth out. And I understand from the Google, I think it was said, he said that it was 10 kilograms of gold from the teeth and everything, and they collected from the Jews every day. You can imagine 10 kilograms, whatever. An ounce is a lot of money. And then the gas chambers were so packed now, more than they could pack in. They should take the children throw them on top now, because they want to get as many people killed as possible. So there was no room now in the crematoriums. There was 400 people, Jewish people, who worked in the crematorium. And their job was to take them out from the gas chambers and cremate them. But there were so many of them, they couldn't do enough. They didn't have enough. So what they'd done is they built 2 big pits and built a fire and they threw them in these pits. And as it was in these pits, and what they'd done is, how you can get a fire going? So when they saw the fed Jews coming in, they threw these fed Jews on top of the fire, and the fat would burn the fire. The fire was running 24 hours a day. One of the, from my village, one man actually, as I was standing there, and I saw a truck going by, and this man, he had a white beard, you know, he was the grandfather of the 2 boys who I was friendly with. I was always in their home, they had a lovely home at home in Romania, and they were richer than us, obviously. And I've seen this grandfather with a white beard on the top of the pickup truck. And I think to myself, what is he doing there? And he had all these German medals. You know, he fought on the First World War, you know, for Germany. And he had all these medals up there. Next thing I know is truck tilts over and he spits and throw him into the fire. I'm not sure, but I think he was dead already anyway. And they went straight in the same fire because they didn't bother with people like that. He was, I think he had his legs amputated, that's why he was on there separately. And then he saw another truck coming up with children. There was a burst part. Very tiny children, between 2 years old and 4 years old. There was about a full truck of these kids. And then one of the kids, somehow, I don't know how he done it, he fell out from the back of the truck. So the driver stopped, picked up the kid, took his 2 legs, tore them apart, the blood was running everywhere. They threw them on top of the truck. Once he was dead, there was blood everywhere running. And that's how much they thought of kids. They were going to gas chambers anyway. So that's how life was more or less in Auschwitz. There was actually, there was about 1,900 priests who were Germans and who were against Hitler, and they got into Auschwitz as well. Most of them were also murdered. There was gypsies, 20,000, I think, about 3,000 survived. There was Jehovah's Witnesses there, and there was Russians, prisoners there as well. So everybody was the same more or less, but the Jews had the worst. They had the slightly better food than we did. That's what we got every day, the same thing. We never changed. It's exactly the same. So, and this was going on. I can tell a lot of stories about Auschwitz, but I think I've heard enough about Auschwitz tonight. So, this was going on right up to January 1945. By that time, the Russian army came very near to Auschwitz, very near. So it was only about, they were behind, I heard about 15 miles. That's all they were behind Auschwitz. So they decided, they destroyed all the gas chambers. And they decided, what are we going to do? There was 50,000 left. They were still coming in Jews from Europe. What are you going to do with them? So they decided they can't leave them alive. They're going to tell everybody what we've done with them. So the best thing is to send them in a forest and leave them in there. Leave a couple of guards to take them, a few of the guards, and take them maybe to another camp. And that's exactly what they've done. So we started marching. I don't think you realize, we stood there every morning in Auschwitz, especially November, December, and it was minus 20. And how we survived in them pajamas, I honestly don't know. I used to stay, there was five, I was always in the middle of the five. Keep myself a bit about, moved about all the time. If you stood still, you were frozen stiff. So, especially when you're not well, and so on. Yeah, they didn't have no glow in you. A lot of them died already frozen stiff. And also they used to, as I think I mentioned it before, they used to take about 10 or 12 people and hang them just for fun before we left work. So now they decided what we're going to do is there's about 50,000 left now. They got over the crematoriums, sending him on a death march. So we moved out, we went all different places. No, we didn't all go to the same place. I don't know where some ended up in Buchenwald, different camps. We went towards Berlin, which I didn't realize at the time. There was 300 miles, I found out, from Auschwitz to Berlin. So they gave us nothing, no food, nothing this time. So I noticed every few minutes as one mile someone was shot. As soon as you couldn't move, or you were weak, or you went like this, they shot you. So I left you in the what's the name. So in the evenings, when we stopped for overnight, I used to take a blanket. In fact, a lot of them are dead. I took a couple of blankets from the dead. I laid on the snow, and I used to drink the snow for water, and I used to eat the grass underneath the snow. That's what it was. Didn't give us anything. So I managed to survive in it just about, but a lot of people couldn't take it, so they died of the runs. They couldn't, not everybody could take grass. And there were some Russian prisoners there, and they actually, for starvation, they've eaten dead bodies up, there's so many of them. So, you know, for life. I couldn't do that. I'd rather eat the grass. We were in there for about, well, it was January the 17th we left, and we arrived actually in March, beginning of March, in a place called Oranienburg, Sachsenhausen. That was the name of the camp. How did we get inside there? They didn't want the Germans, the Nazis, didn't want us to walk the town to see what we look like, because we look like skeletons. So what they done is they brought a train in, you know, back a train, and then we got onto this train, and we got the back way into the camp. So nobody saw us. We got inside the camp, and as we pulled in, I remember they opened the doors. I was so sick, and this time was a couple of days. Again, I couldn't even have snow, I couldn't have anything. I was too weak now. So as he opened the door, I fell out, nothing died, into this puddle. And somehow I came up, and I thought to myself, you know what? I've lost faith now in the religion, didn't believe in anything. But I thought to myself, you know, I'm going to ask God once more, you know, if he could help. So I started to cry to God, spoke to him like I was speaking to him, and I said, you know what, this is, I can't take it, you know, this is that. And so I tell you what, God, I'm going to do a deal with you. If I was liberated, ever liberated, I would go to a Jewish high school, you know, learn the Bible, you know, one of those religious schools. And I would go for 1 year only, but after that I want to live my own life, because I really didn't believe in it, but I would do it. So, and as I finished saying that, would you believe it? The guards come up for the first time and brought us coffee. And first I was in coffee for a long time, and then when they came back again, brought us some bread. And they thrown it on the floor like for the chickens. I just thrown it like that, and I couldn't pick it up, I was too weak. So the guard came back again, took a piece of bread from the stronger guy who had 3 pieces, and gave me, he said, give the kid a chance to live as well. And he gave me the bread, and I thought, so maybe it is a God, you know, maybe he just forgot us. So I started, I was feeling better because having more belief now, you know, to get me going. What it really got me going was, I thought to myself, you know what, they took away my family, the whole family was going to the guest chambers, more or less. They took away my clothes, when I had to do my Bible away. They took away my home, where I lived. What did they want from me? I had nothing to give, nothing. So I thought that they want my soul, they're not going to get that. That's one thing I'm going to keep. And that's partly. And the other partly I kept me going was, I was dreaming every night that I'm going to meet my older sister. And sure, she didn't go to the guest chamber, she was actually nearly 17, so she should have been all right. And that's what kept me going. And thinking of her, you know, that at least I've got a sister left. And then we went back again on the train, because there was no room in the Sachsenhausen for us. We had to sleep on the floor then, and it's still raining and damp, can you imagine? So we moved on again. So they got the trains back again, and we got about, they're going to go towards Dachau now. Dachau was the first concentration camp in Germany, you know, in the early 30s already. It was a prison camp first, and then began for the Jews as well. It was a big camp, Dachau. Dachau was the first one Hitler made, but there was actually over 300 camps, really, all over Europe. But the reason Auschwitz is so famous because there was 28,000 murdered every day. Before they used to murder them, they used to shoot them. They just shot so many 100 a day or 200 a day. That's how I know they took out 600 children, for instance. They just shot all the children and they just dumped them into a big hole, and that's it. So my hair was it. So we started to go towards Dachau. We come in back in the train, we dropped us off, marched again. And by the time the beginning of April came, we arrived in a place called, what was it? No, Flossenburg. Sorry, my brain is not there today. Flossenburg. Flossenburg is in Bavaria. Right, and funny enough, it's not far from Dachau. It's about, I would say about 30 or 40 miles maybe from Dachau, Flossenburg. It's another camp. When we got to Flossenburg, I couldn't believe it, you know, they gave us a clean shirt actually, but you know what? Their shirt was covered with lice, and so big ones, and they used to eat you up, you know, as soon as I put them on. So I managed to get another shirt, again, another one. And would you believe it? The lice were back again, terrible. That's all actually I remember a lot about Flossenburg. All I remember is what we, you know, was not much food there either. And it wasn't very long then. From there they told us to march on. This time towards Dachau. So we took the train partly. They took the train back again and filled us up. And when we got to a place, I think it was called Stamford, on the railway station, we managed to get in there. And the train was packed with us. You know, it was also freight wagons. It was packed with people. And the train, the Americans came and bombed the engine, the locomotive, bombed it. So they couldn't go any further. So they went and got another locomotive and hooked it up. And now, the Americans thought, well, there must be some special cargo in that train. Why would they give you another one? So they came back again and started shooting inside the thing. And obviously the locomotive was gone again. So I was very lucky actually. I was one of them that I didn't get wounded. A lot of them got wounded and killed someone from the Americans. They didn't know, they thought it was German train. And so now we had to march again. So we marched again, I marched again, and the next time we marched was, I think it was just about, the time I remember was the 22nd of April. We were in a small village. It's the first time we went in a village. We were not allowed to go to the village. We were only allowed to be in the forest, because they didn't want to see us. So when we got to this village, they thought there was some skeletons arrived. And then they came out, the local people, the local farms came out with bread and sandwiches and whatever. It was lovely. But you know what? He told them, the guard, you give these Jews this bread, we shoot you as well. So they took all the bread back again. So we didn't get nothing. But we stopped in the village. And I remember when I got into the village, there was a long trough where the pigs were eating, and I put my hand in there with the pigs, and I was eating the same food as them. And that made me feel bad. I was so hungry. So anything I could eat, and I was eating with the pigs. And I was left in the hay up in the barn there. And next morning, which was 23rd of April, the reason I remember it was that's the day I was liberated. It's 23rd of April, they told us to go back in the forest. So we're going to walk now, it's not far now, we're going to go to Dachau. But the point is this, as we got into the forest, and it was about midday, somewhere like that, and all of a sudden I heard a lot of shooting going on. You know, and all of a sudden I look around and I find the guards have all left. I was on my own. So I was so scared, I didn't know what to do, you know. And I jumped into a foxhole. And as I jumped into this foxhole, I thought I'd wait and see what happens. And not long while waiting, there's this guy comes up, you know, in a uniform, and he says to me, "Are you Jewish?" You know, I hesitated for a second. I said, "What's the difference?" "Yeah, I'm Jewish." And he says, "You know what?" He says, "I'm also Jewish." I don't believe him. You know, I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm an American Jewish. I'm from New York." He told me his name, but I forgot. It's a shame I didn't keep his name. I would have loved to thank him. Anyway, he looked at the state I was in, and then I cried. Because I cried, he cried. I couldn't believe I'm going to be liberated one day. Never thought. I hoped I would be liberated, but never thought. Anyway, picked me up, took me to, funny enough, not a Jewish one, but first they all gave me blood, you know, the troops, the American troops. There was a lot of African people there in the American army, and they all gave me blood, helped me as much as I can, and they all took me to a convent. The convent, this was a place called Hildesdorf, and this convent, I was there for about, we had lots of food there, no problem, but still, even though we had lots of food, I remember, in the evenings when we had our supper, I still well, I couldn't eat, I still put it in my pockets in case there's no food. There was lots of food, really. But it's almost inside you because, you know, it was so much worried about food. It was such a terrible that you couldn't get over it. So I was at this convent for about, I think it was about 8 months. And then someone came and said, anyone who is under 16 could go to England. You know, that was 1945. And I thought, I registered to go to England. I didn't know when. But then I thought, if I'm going to go to England, I'm going to go home first to Romania and see if I can find my sister. Because she was older than me, she should survive. She was working, should survive. But no, I know the other ones wouldn't have a chance. I know that, especially my mum. And so I know they will never have a chance. So I picked up an American truck, one of those, so, you know, and asked them which way they're going. They said they're going to Prague, you know, Czechoslovakia. And I said, can I have a lift? They said, yeah, of course. So they gave me a lift to Prague. I got off at Prague, and there was a few people there on the street there, and they were sitting on the edges like. And I said to them, one of them was actually my father's cousin. And I said, you and my sister were together. So where is she? And he said, so sorry to tell you that she was in Bergen-Belsen. And it was so bad up there that she got very ill. And she died. And she died 2 days after liberation. 2 days. And she was liberated, but she was dead. She was gone. They couldn't help her anymore. There was too many of them anyway. And the British at the time found 10,000 bodies, not buried even, but just skeletons. You know, they were thrown them all in a big pit in a big hole. So the British general made the Germans to come and get those together and bury them, put them in a 500 meter buried, you know. So I thought to myself, there's no point me going to Romania now. Where am I going to find her? My sister is gone. And the only hope I had, you know, was my sister. And a very close family. So I would lose my sister. It was hard on me. I know it was the others, but my sister was there. Anyway, I got back to the convent, and in November, thank you. Bad enough losing everybody, but lose class one. So I came to England. On a plane, we arrived in Southampton, and I was, you know, welcomed by the Jewish Refugee Committee, and they gave us lovely meals. I remember the English white bread sandwiches, which I haven't seen right there for a long time. So I started eating them sandwiches, and then I put some in my pocket for tomorrow. And they gave me some potato soup, it was lovely. I ate the potatoes and I put the liquid, and I saved the potatoes. But I didn't really need them because I had food the next day as much as you want. And then they said to me, you know what, You could go to school. We had a special school because I know you're 16, and you could learn English and to read and write. I said, you know what, I love to go to school and I love to learn. And I see, especially going out to schools, there were a lot of opportunities there. I didn't have that because under Hungarian rule, I was not allowed to go to school either because I was Jewish. But here, I can go to school. So I thought to myself, but I said, well, I can't go to school. Why is that? I promised God, you know, that I'm not religious now, but I promised God I'm going to Jewish college for a year, which is really a religious college. You don't get much, you learn about religion. So I'm going there because he kept his promise, whatever it was, and I want to keep my promise. So I kept my promise. I went a year to Manchester in a Jewish college, you know, for 1 year. In 1979, my first wife she didn't have anybody in England, nobody. So it was a terrible way, the way I met her, you know, with accidents we had. But anyway, that's a long story. She wanted to go, she had family, but she had them in Canada. And she wanted to go to Canada to see her family. So by 1980, we went to Canada. And we liked it so much there that I had to finish off in London still for a couple of years. But she went and built a beautiful home and we stayed there. So we were there till in 2004, she died of leukemia. But you know what, when we arrived, she had a mother there, she had a brother there, she had a younger sister there, and would you believe it, all of them died, you know. So my daughter didn't come to Canada because they were married already, so neither did my son. He was living in France, so they didn't come. So my daughter kept on nagging me down, well, you should come back to England because you have nobody in Canada now. So what do you want to stay there for? Who did you got? Did you find anybody? No, didn't find anyone. So it took me 4 years to make my mind up because Canada was a lovely country. I got used to Canada until I was there nearly 30 years. So I decided, okay, in 2008, I came to Canada. I mean to England from Canada in 2008. So, and then the German, you know where I stayed in the convent, I was mentioning it. But that convent is not a convent anymore. All those nuns died off. So they never replaced them. So now that convent became a school. And there's 1,300 children in this convent. So they asked me in 2008 if I would like to speak about the Holocaust in the class, one of the classes. And I said, yeah, of course. They said, we pay you fare from Canada to then back there. And when you come here, it costs you nothing. You get the hotels, you get everything free, just speak. You know, so I've been doing it now since 2008. I've been going every year to the same place for the convent. So anyway, in 2011, I was asked if I would like to go to Auschwitz, speak there. I said, if I went to Auschwitz, I said, I'll be dead. I don't go there. No way. And then Miriam says, well, by the way, meantime, I got married to Miriam in 2011. And so Miriam's my second wife. So she said to me, you know what? She said, you should go because you never said goodbye to your family. And all the families that left in Auschwitz-Birkenau. So I thought to myself, you know what, that's right actually. I should say to finish off. Because I can't go to any cemetery. They're not buried anywhere. Well, am I going to say a prayer for them? We have a prayer once in a year for the dead, for the day they passed away. Every year we remember the day. And we used to say, but I've got nowhere to go. So I thought, so maybe I should go to Auschwitz. Well, so I did go. That was in 2011 with a local rabbi from Southend. So we were about 50 of us, I think, in the crowd. But from Southend there wasn't many. Most of them came out from Finchley, somewhere at that end and some of them came from South Africa. So we made up the crowd, and we had a very good person, to guide us there. And we stood on the spot. I stood on the spot where I left my family, exact spot more or less. And there was 3 tombstones standing for the 6 million Jews. And there was 9 candles for my family. The 9, I lost 9. For my parents and the 7 brothers and sisters. And when the rabbi started saying the prayers which you do when someone dies, I thought actually he sounded just like my father. My father done funerals, and of course he done weddings, and being a reverend he done all that. And when it sounded like my father singing in my brain. I thought my father was singing, not him. So I started to cry, and more than 50 of them cried. It was very, very emotional the first time, very emotional. But you get used to everything in the end. Anyway, in 2012, I went with a different rabbi, and I found out I was going to Auschwitz. There's not many of us want to go there. So I went again, and this time, this rabbi come from North London. We were East London, and North London, the L Street, Bournemouth. And would you believe it that this rabbi has got 7 children, and the same thing I've lost. He's got 4 daughters and 3 sons, and the same ages, which I've lost. They're exactly the same ages. The youngest one was the same as my youngest. The oldest were the same, 13 like my oldest, so I was exactly the same. Anyway, I got friendly with him, and he took me, we went to Auschwitz with him. He went to a place near Lodz, where they took 600 children, just little children. They took them, undressed them, and then shot all of them and threw them into the hole there. So we went there for a memorial there, and as we went there was one of these wagons that I left home from Hungary. And as we went in there, we started, singing the special songs, so on and so on. And I'm standing there thinking to myself, you know what? We here, we are only 50 of us in this wagon, and it's packed. I can't move. How did we manage? We had 110, 114 people. How did it possible? And as I'm going back miles away, very vividly, I'm seeing my brothers and sisters standing next to me. And it's so clear that it was the same day as I left them. Really clear. Couldn't believe it. And of course I started crying, and then everybody cried in the end, so, that was the second time. Anyway, I come forward and tell you why it was very interesting to me to come to school. I'll tell you why, because you're the new generation, you're going to grow up. I'm 85, so I don't know how long I can do it. And it would be nice, you should live a decent life and have compassion to each other. You know what? I don't hate the Germans at all. I don't know why, but there's no hate in me for anybody.